There's a strange phenomenon that hits you at some point in your adult life. You boot up a game you loved as a kid and you hear that opening music, and suddenly you've been transported back to a simpler time. When you were a kid, gaming felt like the most important thing in the world. You'd come home from school, drop your backpack off somewhere it absolutely shouldn't have been dropped off at, because you didn't have a care in the world. You'd get up and sprint straight to your console. There was no warm-up, no slow build. You just press that button and instantly be transported to another world. There was no bills, no rent, no weird back pain that you mysteriously got every time you sat for too long. Just pure, uninterrupted gaming bliss. Now, fast forward a couple decades, your gaming setup still might be there, but right next to it, a laundry basket that you've been meaning to fold for the last week. A to-do list that is so long that you question, what's the consequences of me just not doing it? Maybe even a cup of coffee that's been sitting there for a couple days now. This is the story of what gaming becomes when you grow up. This is the sad truth of gaming as an adult. The nostalgia aspect of it, the time management acrobatics, the rare scarce burst of free time, and yes, even those nights that you decide to go to bed instead of playing the newest, biggest, most hyped release ever. This is the sad truth about gaming as an adult, but when you're a kid, nostalgia isn't even on your radar. You're too busy living in the moment, too busy trying to finally beat that one boss or figure out how to get past that impossible level without looking up a guide, because, well, back then, looking up a guide, meant finding a printed walkthrough in a magazine or begging your friend who totally knew the tricks. But as you grow older, nostalgia becomes powerful, and gaming is one of the most potent triggers for it. It's not just the games, it's the rituals around them. That click when you load a GameCube disc, the warm static hum of a CRT TV, blowing into an N64 cartridge, even though scientifically it didn't really help it at all. The PS2 startup sound, which somehow feels like a gaming equivalent of a church choir. When you hear those sounds now, you're not just thinking about the game you're playing. You're thinking about you, who you are, who you were, where you were, the friends you had, the way the sunlight came through your blinds in your childhood room while you woke up early just to play your favorite system. It's like the games just aren't a portal to another world, but they're a portal to an earlier version of you. And the older you get, the more you realize those moments aren't coming back, except in these small, precious ways. Because gaming as a kid, it was simple. Your schedule was school, homework, I would hope so, and gaming. Until your parents told you to go to bed at least. Gaming as an adult, well, it's a logistic puzzle worthy of its own strategy guide, if I'm being honest. Now you've got work, chores, social obligations, family responsibilities, maybe even kids of your own who somehow have their own gaming schedules that you have to account for and manage. And when you finally get time to play, time to yourself, it's never a perfect uninterrupted session. You might start a big boss fight and then your phone rings. Or you finally get into a multiplayer lobby with your friends and someone says, hey, I gotta log off for the night. I got work in the morning. The fantasy of all-night gaming marathons, yeah, those can still happen, but they're definitely a rare event now. You can still do it, yeah, but the next morning, your body won't be happy. When you were a kid, free time felt endless. You can burn an entire summer playing one game and never think twice about it. But as an adult, free time just isn't valuable. It's scarce. Not, oh, I'll play later scarce. I mean endangered species scarce. Kind of scary how rare it is. Weeks can go by where you only get alone time by just standing in the shower, staring at a tile, wondering if you left the laundry in the washer or what you're gonna have for dinner later that night. And because it's so rare, you start to guard it. If by some miracle you manage to carve out 2 hours for yourself with no work, no errands, no hangouts, it becomes a high stakes decision. You can sit there staring at your console's home screen, or you can ask yourself, do I want to dive into something new? Or do I just want to sit here, rest, go on my phone, scroll, and just lay down? And here's the truth. I'm considered the gamer amongst my friends, my family, and I still choose the latter more often than I'm willing to admit. Not because the games aren't calling me, but sometimes the idea of not doing anything is more tempting than an epic quest or shiny hunting a Pokemon I really want. When you were a kid, that choice didn't exist. The answer was always gaming, 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 gaming. You had the time, the energy, the mental bandwidth. Your only limitation was bedtime, and even that was negotiable to an extent, if you were quiet enough at least. Now, sometimes the most luxurious, indulgent thing in the world is doing absolutely nothing. Just letting your brain cool off. And that doesn't mean your love for games is any less. Far from it, actually. It's just that life now takes so much out of you that even your downtime has to be budgeted. Every choice of how you spend it feels like a trade-off. It's no longer, do I want to play? It's, do I have enough in the tank to play? Because when work, responsibilities, and just existing takes up most of your mental hard drive, even sometimes you can feel like playing a game or doing anything just requires too much energy. Because remember when big game releases were like a national holiday for many? It didn't matter if it was your favorite series or not. The hype was contagious. You'd mark the date on your calendar months in advance, watch every trailer, every second, every drop of information that bled out on the internet, and dissect every frame with friends and speculate wild features that were sure to be in the game but never actually were. Midnight releases weren't just a purchase. They were an event. You'd stand in line outside the game store with a bunch of strangers who, for that night, felt like lifelong friends. There was this shared electricity in the air, fueled by Mountain Dew, even though I didn't drink Mountain Dew, Doritos, even though I didn't eat Doritos, or some other unhealthy thing. It was the pure anticipation of getting your hands on something brand new. You'd go home, tear into the packaging like it was a golden ticket, and proudly display your pre-order bonus, a keychain, a poster. It was like a badge of honor. This was the moment, the now moment, because these days, things feel different. A massive hyped up game might come out, and instead of rearranging your life to play it immediately, you might think, looks great, I'll try it on sale. Or even worse, looks great, but I could get a full night's sleep first. And the scary part is, sleep wins most of the time. Not because you lost your passion, but because you gained perspective and a body that reminds you very loudly when you've pushed it too far, you're in for some trouble. You've learned that the hard way by staying up until 3 a.m. playing a game that you just want to get started on. And even when you do that, sometimes it doesn't hit the same. You have bills to pay, you have a morning meeting to attend, you got work at 6 a.m. Your brain needs to be firing on more than fumes. In your teens, the worst consequence was being a little groggy in class, maybe taking a nap. As an adult, you're paying for it. And for some of us, me included, you're paying for it all day. In productivity, in patience, in mood. It's not laziness, it's survival. You're not avoiding the game, you're just pacing yourself because you now understand that sometimes the best way to enjoy something is to make sure you're actually awake to remember it. As a kid, you'd play anything. Bargain bin and scratched up labels and games with no reviews. Yeah, sure. Licensed shovelware based on a movie you barely even like. Fine, cool, absolutely. The random sports game with confusing rules that you didn't understand. Why not? It had a cool cover and a fun controller, so it was a win-win for you. Back then, your standards were non-existent. At least mine were. If it plugged in and made sounds, you were sold. Hours of entertainment were guaranteed regardless, and the worst case scenario was just frustration and not wasted time. But now, things are different. Now you have standards. Well, most of you. You do research, you watch reviews, you check out gameplay footage from YouTubers or influencers. Sometimes you check even forums like on Reddit just to see what people think of the game. If there's a bug in the game that you can bypass, or, what people are just saying about the topic. And then comes the question, is this game worth all the hours of playtime? Or could I be sleeping, relaxing, or just being still, doom scrolling to my heart's content, or just doing something else? This is where adult gaming diverges sharply from childhood gaming. Again, it's not about being a snob, it's about valuing your time. And let's be honest, your hard-earned money too. You don't have the luxury of treating every new release like a free-for-all adventure. Every hour you invest in the game, every dollar you spend, all that matters. Because of that, the games that survive on your scrutiny become treasures. They're the ones that actually feel like they're worth your attention, worth your energy, worth your life's slice of free time. And in short, childhood gaming was about quantity, while adult gaming is about quality. And the stakes feel higher because, well, the cost is real. When you were young, gaming joy is big, it's loud, it's chaotic. Every discovery feels like a magical accident, a hidden passage you weren't supposed to find, a glitch that becomes your secret playground, or a boss fight that makes your heart race like a roller coaster. The joy is raw, immediate, and often messy. You scream, you laugh, you throw your controller, gently I hope. You don't care who's watching. As an adult, joy changes, not just in gaming, but in general. It becomes slower, more deliberate. You savor the game rather than devouring them. You start noticing little details you completely missed before. The subtle way the soundtrack swells at the right moment to make you feel small and epic all at the same time. Or how a background character goes through their tiny routine, oblivious to the chaos you're causing on screen. You might only get an hour or two a week to play, but those hours, they're precious. You don't rush, you let the moment sit with you. You soak in the atmosphere and linger in the memory long after you put the controller down. You don't consume the game anymore, you let it breathe. You notice the artistic vision in the environment, the little Easter eggs tucked in by the developers, the subtle storytelling in the background. Every scene feels more intentional. Every triumph feels more satisfying because you're experiencing it with intention, not just impulsive excitement. And there's something beautiful in that resonance. Gaming as an adult teaches patience, attention, and appreciation. It turns each session into a small ritual rather than just another hour passing by on a Saturday morning. The joy is quieter, but somehow it's richer, deeper, and more resonant. And don't even get me started with multiplayer gaming. Multiplayer gaming was always meant to be stayed up until sunrise, yelling into your headset with your friends while surviving on a diet of snacks, soda, and a sheer adrenaline. The victories were loud and the defeats were very, very tragic. And every match felt like an epic saga that you would recount for days, talking about it amongst your friends, your family. You didn't care about the sleep. School the next day, whatever. Or whether your parents were glaring at you for neglecting your homework, although that was never me. I was a perfect student. I never missed homework. Now, multiplayer looks a lot different. In fact, in my life, it's non-existent. You might manage one gaming night a month with the same small group of friends if everyone can coordinate their work schedules, which is very difficult. Even then, coordinating it with family obligations and just life in general is very difficult. Even then, there's a mental checklist you have to get through. Can I stay up past 10? Will I be too tired tomorrow? Did I feed the dog? When you finally log on, the stakes have shifted. It's less about winning or ranking up the leaderboards, but more about the experience. Instead, it's about catching up, about hearing about someone's new job, someone else's kid's latest antics, and that friend who just moved across the country and the experiences they're going through. The game is there, yes, and you might play it, yeah, but really, it's an excuse to spend time together. And here's the interesting part. The sessions are fewer, but somehow they feel more heavier, more meaningful. Each laugh, each shared moment feels richer because they're rare. Although multiplayer isn't chaotic like it was as a kid, but it's precious. And while the glory of the youth might be gone, the warmth of connection is stronger than ever because amongst your peers, you're more mature, you're more understanding, and most importantly, you're more invested. When you're young, almost every game you play leaves some kind of mark on you. Each one feels important, urgent, like it's shaping the way you see the world, or at least shaping how you spend the next few hours, weeks, months, or in my case, years, but that's another topic for another day. You soak in every level, every mechanic, every story beat, because for a kid, everything is fresh, intense, and worth remembering. As an adult, you start to see things differently though. You realize that most games will come and go, and some you'll play once, enjoy them for what they are, and then never touch them again. Others will fade from memory entirely, but a few, just a handful, will stick with you for life. These are the games that become comfort food for you. The ones you return to over and over, even if the years have passed. Maybe it's a familiar RPG that makes you feel safe in its world. Or maybe it's a platformer that reminds you of sitting on the floor, controller in hand, in your childhood room. You replay them every few years because it feels like a personal tradition for yourself, a quiet ritual that reconnects you with who you were and what reminds you of those powerful moments. It's no longer about chasing the newest release, the flashiest graphics, even the most hyped up event. It's about cherishing the ones that matter to you, the games that shaped you, comforted you, and still bring you joy when the world outside feels so heavy. Because as an adult, you realize that sometimes the most important game isn't about the next level, it's about the memories, the feeling, the small precious moments that stick with you long after the console's turned off. At first, realizing that you can't game like you used to, the uninterrupted sessions, the endless late nights, the reckless enthusiasm, it feels a little sad. You miss the sense of limitless time, that pure chaotic joy, and you might even feel a twinge of guilt for not keeping up with the newest releases, the way you used to at least. Eventually, you come to understand something important. That's just life. And I know that's cliche, but you have to realize responsibilities grow. Energy wanes, priorities shift, and that's okay. Gaming evolves with you, even if you had to experience it in a different way. You might play less frequently, but each session becomes richer. You savor the moments more, notice the details you might have overlooked before, and choose games more carefully. The joy is quieter, more deliberate, but sometimes it's more meaningful. Somehow it means more. And the best part, gaming isn't going anywhere. Your favorite worlds, your comfort games, your memories of epic multiplayer nights, they're still here, waiting for you. They adapt at your pace, your schedule, your life. The games themselves haven't changed. You have. And in that change, you find a new way of loving the game. One that fits perfectly with the life you've built. And that's okay. So maybe gaming as an adult isn't about the endless marathons, completing every trophy, or keeping up with every single release game that drops. That chapter belongs to a younger version of ourselves. The one with endless energy, with few responsibilities, and a child wonder that is willing to lose sleep. As an adult, it's something different. It's about finding those little moments, the quiet, treasured ones that make you pause and smile. The hour you carve out on a weekend night to finally revisit a game you loved as a kid, or experience a new game you've been waiting for. The multiplayer session that turns into a conversation about life more than the battle up the leaderboards. The familiar soundtrack that somehow transports you back to your childhood. Because games aren't just entertainment, they're markers of time, milestones in our personal histories, little capsules of who we were and who we've become. They're the world we've explored, the stories that shaped us, and the rituals that discomfort us. And no matter how busy life gets, no matter how many responsibilities pile up on ourselves, they're always here, waiting patiently for us to press the start button, or the options button, or the plus button, or enter. Gaming as an adult might be quieter. It might be slower, more intentional, but in some ways, it's also more deeper, richer, crisp. Because now, it's not just about the game, it's about the experience, the memories, and the small, irreplaceable moments that make us happy, that make us smile. And because of that, well, I think it makes life a little bit more sweeter. Gaming as an adult is different, but sometimes different ain't that bad. You know, sitting here watching back while editing, very obvious that my eyes are reading a script. It's whatever.